Hello everyone, my name is Sordy and this is part 3 of the Ultimate Trackmania guide. Today we'll be covering one of my favorite styles, Fullspeed. Fullspeed maps are mostly road and full with loopings and wallrides. The goal is to gain speed and keep as much of that speed as possible across the entire map. Fullspeed is fairly easy to get into, as you usually don't have to look at gears or think about drifting or releasing. But maxing full speed is incredibly difficult, as every point of speed lost or gained will snowball across the rest of your run. Now to start off, let's talk a bit about grip. Alright, I've made a small map here, just a booster to get us up to speed and one wallride. So as you can see right now, I can steer without issues. I don't lose speed, so barely lose speed. However, once I get up here, my car starts sliding. Maybe you can see this better in Cam 2. You immediately see skip marks by my car. And once you are losing grip like that, you want to slide as little as possible. So for example, let's look at this. We're going to Cam 3 to see the track a bit better. So I adjusted my car a bit and was faster because I was sliding less. Do it again. So first, if we're sliding a lot, like we're steering a lot here, so we're sliding 491. Do it again. But now have some steering in order to minimize the sliding we're doing when we're losing grip. You can see we're still sliding a bit, but now we're a lot faster. Now the two main reasons why you are losing grip and full speed is because of features like wallrides and loops. Features are basically like the special blocks in full speed, or if you're turning if your car is going above 600 speeds. Let's take a look at that last part. So here's the exact same map, but just with a couple of extra boosters to see what happens if you steer when you go above 600 speed. So I'm even at 700 right now. You can see that my car automatically starts sliding because I'm going too fast while I'm full steering. Usually you want to avoid this, except if you're gonna speed slide, but we'll talk about that later. So just keep in mind that if you're going this fast, if you're full steering, you might slide out, lose some grip and start sliding. Now, what do you do when you lose your grip like this? I'm gonna take a look at all the features that exist within Fullspeed, at least the most commonly used ones, and see how you have to take them in order to preserve the most speed throughout them. Now the biggest and most common used features are loopings, wallrides, tubes, cakes, and lastly, which is not in this campaign, turnovers. And I'll be covering all of them. For most of these I'll be using the OXFS training campaign. You can search for this and it has a bunch of maps that you can use to train your different full speed techniques. So let's get into loopings and see how to take this. So this is a track for loopings. Loopings are very simple. They're usually 2 or 3 blocks wide loopings like this. Sometimes they also have a gap here. So let's take one of these and see what happens. Very simple, quick tap. But you can see I'm -8 on my PB, -8 speed. What did we do wrong there? -10 even. Now loopings you usually want to take as tight as possible. So if you go very close, steer minimally, you can see I'm immediately losing less speed. In most features you'll be looking to optimize the speed that you're losing. So to lose as little as possible. So you start out very tight here. You just grab this apex here. Even though it's aligned differently, the apexes still exist. So you got this. You go as tight as possible to end up at this apex. So you have the entry and exit apex basically. And end up very tight again. So let's see the difference again. If I go very wide, I'm even sliding a bit on the entry. Oh, that was too wide obviously. Go again, go very wide. sliding, losing a lot of speed. However, if you go tight, we start very tight. We are in the looping as little as possible. Same here, and again same here. That's it. Now what you saw here was a different kind of looping. So how do you take this? So to show these variations of loopings, I want to take a look at fall 2022-16. As you can see in the beginning, it starts over there. There are two loopings like this, corkscrews. So first a tight part, into a more shallow part, again into a more tighter part, to a more shallow part. So the way you take these loopings is to kind of steer with the tight part of the looping. Do that again here. So you have to entry somewhat wide, so you can steer like this. You start here, you go all the way here. So you have this kind of smooth line. First let's see what our car does when we do not do this. So we went tight, a bit too tight, tight again, let's stay tight. Yeah, let's say we end up with like 430 speed. Try it again. Yeah, just 420, 420, 430. Now what happens if we steer with looping? So exit or entry a bit wider, and then turn with the looping. Like this. It was a bit too much. This, go back. Try to steer a bit. Yeah, we're already hitting 440 there. Try that again. So we steer back so we can have a good entry for the second part. And we end up with a lot more speed. So once you see those kind of loopings, turn with the looping and you'll be set. So here we are on the training tubes in the Ox FS training campaign. So here we're going to take a look at tubes, which is basically a kind of variation of loopings that you take diagonally. So the goal here is, because you're losing grip, especially in these parts, is to minimize the sliding that you're doing. And you do this by just quickly tapping your steering to make sure that your car is sliding as least as possible. First let's take a look at what happens if we do not look at our sliding and just do whatever we want. So start off with sliding a bit too much. Let's say on the exit, but we kind of sliding there. You already see -14 on my PB. Now if we just adjust the steering a little bit so that we slide as little as possible, very quick taps, you already see the speed is much better. Let's try it again. There's a very smooth line. You always will hear a bit of screeching skip marks, but right there, my speed was the same as my PB again. Then what you do is kind of smoothly go through the turns and make sure that you're not sliding to not lose any speed, or at least not more speed than you want to. So here we are on the same map again. We have this tube start into a Wallride. So let's look at this Wallride right here. So as we saw earlier, in the Wallride you have a lot less grip than if you were just flat on the ground. So you want to again minimize the sliding that you're doing. Now something to also notice here is something that may also be applicable to tubes, but it is especially applicable to Wallrides, is basically this part right here. Let's say if we're doing the Wallride, we entry here, and if we already start jumping at this point, the way from where we exit this looping part right here, this quarter pipe, all the way to the Wallride here is airtime. And airtime, as we know, is the devil, especially in full speed, because the speed that you lose there will be lost throughout the map. So how do you minimize this? Is you want to, instead of starting with the Wallride here, is starting the Wallride here. So again, having this apex here. So then the entire line will be kind of like this. You enter here. You can use They're called wallride helpers. Often they're placed along the apex here. You can use that to start the wallride and gain as little airtime as possible. Then stay as low as possible for the shortest line while not sliding. Usually not sliding is a lot more important, so focus on that. All the way here. And then the same exit as you would have the entry. Again, very close to here. If you exit all the way, let's say in the middle here, then again you will have airtime in this part right here. So let's try that out. So I quickly moved over to training walls in the same campaign. It just has 3 wall rides. So again, the same thing applies. No airtime here or here, and sliding as little as possible on the wall ride itself. Sometimes you cannot avoid sliding completely, but just try to minimize it. It can be difficult, especially in tight wall rides, where you really want to get back to the ground as quick as possible. Okay, so here just PF the starters now. They saw I had some airtime there and also a lot of sliding, so I'm losing speed there. Let's try to optimize that. So maybe we go a bit more to the left here, so it's a better approach. So we start lower, less sliding, and have a lot more speed now. See it again. Start a bit more to the left for a better approach. Little sliding, goes a bit too tight. Of course, that will happen a lot in full speed when you try to really optimize those wall rides. A bit more speed even. The same here. And the same here. And then on the entry of the last wall ride, there's a bit of airtime. Go here. And have an end. So just to kind of conclude, what I did was in every wall ride, go tight here, don't slide, go tight. This is basically the same corner but the other way around. Now something a bit more different here is that you have this, this is 180 degrees, so you have to compensate for that by going a bit higher, so you make sure that you can actually make the turn. And the very last one even had this flap lock in the middle, as you can see. So for that you want to make sure that your car is kind of straight before you enter it, so you don't start sliding at the part after it. And again, no airtime in the end to the finish. Next one we're gonna look at is cakes. So cakes are similar to wall rides, but they're slanted like this. And what you can do is kind of use this, as you can see it's kind of curving towards you. So you can use that to gain a bit more grip and therefore more speed. So like a wall ride you would take in the middle, like this. But cakes you take a lot higher. So you go more like this and then go back down. So really abuse that banking basically to keep more speed. So what you can do is you see a lot of boosters here, so we're going very fast. So you go up high. You basically have your highest point in the middle of the corner, so that will be, let's take a look, around here will be your highest point. And then you go back down and you repeat that. So let's take a look. First let's see what happens if we would take it as if we had a wall ride. So just stay through the middle. Go again. It's very tough to even make the corner if you take it like a wall ride because of the speed that we have. Kind of like that. I already see I'm losing a bit of speed. But let's take it like you have to take a cake. So you go very high. I even have a small speed drift at the end there. Let's try again. Go high, go back. Still want to focus on not sliding, especially on the exit. It's very easy to slide there. Even slid on the entry there. So you can see already how much it impacts my speed. So let's do a normal run with the correct technique. We go high, don't slide. We go high, don't slide. Go high, don't slide. So you can see the pattern here. And we end up with a bunch of speed. And you can see I'm still missing a lot. And that's mostly because I'm not speed sliding in between those features. But we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Now for the last feature I want to take a look at turnovers. So I've built this map here. Again, some boosters into just a turnover. So a turnover is basically like the beginning of a tube into the ending of a wall ride. This makes your car just go back the same direction it came from, and is often used for that reason in Fullspeed, just to get your car back in a completely different direction. So the principles of course stay the same. Again, you're losing grip here, so you want to minimize the amount of sliding that you're doing. And then the same principle of loopings, that you exit tight again. So let's see. Go and cut manually. So you can take it like a looping, or start it as a tube and end as a looping. Okay. So how can you optimize this? Again, slide as little as possible, and then here the apex is this corner right here. You can guess what happens if you basically leave the tube part here. More airtime. So you really want to make sure that you still have some grip around this part, and then immediately grab the looping part again. Because first let's see what happens if we leave very early. So we really take it like this. Oh, maybe it was a bit too aggressive. Let's try that again. We leave early. 503. That was without a lot of sliding. Now if we do the same thing, but really look at the apex. 525. That's already a huge difference. Do it again. A bit of sliding, a bit of airtime, so we are also a bit slower. Alright, so we've looked at basically all the big features, but within those features, or I mean between those features, you have a lot of open platform like this. You'll see stuff like this in Fullspeed maps a lot. How are you able to take those? Well, usually you want to speed slide, so let's take a look at that. Alright, so I've basically created a drag strip right here, just a PF start basically. So see what happens to our speed. So we exit the booster with like 710. We increase quite a lot. Bam, 800. Suddenly our acceleration drops to almost 0. See there again. 800. We're almost releasing it at that point. So what you can do is, if you're going faster than about 400 speed, you can overlap your skid marks if you're sliding in order to gain speed. Now remember, this only works if you have an engine, so you don't have engine off, and you have grip. So in the wall ride this wouldn't really work. So let's try that. Take a look at again how fast I was at the end. I think it was like 805. 806. And remember, we are able to lose grip a bit by full steering, like this. Now I'm just kind of sliding around. I'm already 20 speed faster at the end. Just by full steering and then overlapping my skid marks a bit. So how do you do this precisely? So here I made a huge basically training area for speed drifting. There's a lot of these maps if you look for SD. But for this, for speed sliding, first you have to lose grip somehow, so you start sliding. For this example I will just be using a full steering above 600 and then kind of keep the overlap. The amount of overlap, I'll put on the screen now. So the higher that you're going, the higher the amount of overlap has to be. The reason why this works, by the way, is because the acceleration of your engine is actually lower than the acceleration when you're sliding. You don't have to think too much about it, but there is a reason why it works. So if you go above 400, make sure that you're tapping or holding, depending on whatever you prefer. On keyboard it will be pretty difficult to hold, so you can maybe do some action key stuff like this. Kind of switch between action keys. But make sure that you're as close to the overlap as possible. But if you have to choose between undersliding, like for example, if I start at 600 here, and I'm barely keeping my speed up like this, I'm undersliding. Undersliding is usually what loses you more speed compared to oversliding. So if I do just a bit more than what is required, it's a bit more safe in terms of gaining speed. An easy way to remember the skip mark percentage is basically divide your speed by about 10, and that's the percentage you want to have the overlap. Now of course you see that we have two skip marks, the left side and the right side. It doesn't matter which part we look at. A bit, yes. You usually want to look at the outside skip marks, so in this case it will be my right skip marks. So we take a look at the right there, make sure that the amount of overlap that we have is about similar, or maybe we're oversliding a bit, to the skip marks that we know, the skip mark overlap that we know, and then we're able to generate a lot more speed compared to if we were just not speed sliding. Therefore, let's take a look at example. If I just speed slide a bit before this end here, I'm almost at 7 or 800. Try it again. I'm undersliding a bit, oversliding, let's say 800. And if we are very careful with our steering, not speed sliding, take a look then, 770. Now of course we also had a shorter trajectory, but the speed difference is still quite big. And of course in full speed you want as much speed as you can possibly get. So let's take a look at the different ways of how to start a speed slide. Because right now we've just been looking at full steering if you're going fast, but often at very much at the beginning of a map you won't be this fast. So how do you start speed slides then? So the first way is to just lose grip because of a different surface. The ways that you can start speed drifts are basically the same as you would have normal drifts. So if you've seen the last video about tech, some of these might be familiar. So as you can see right here, if I just push forward, you can see I'm not above 600, so I'm not going to lose my grip by steering. However, because it's dirt, we are sliding a bit, so you can see I'm already having some skip marks there. Now these are also called SD helpers, which is basically like an easy way for your car to lose grip and then convert it into a speed slide like this. Do it again so you can lose grip. And then the most difficult part is of course making sure that your car is in the right angle as you leave it. Like if we just steer a lot, yeah, we're suddenly sliding a lot and then we're losing speed instead of gaining it. But stuff like that, that is sadly just feeling. Do it a lot and you have a feeling of where your car will end up. Another way to start your speed drift, or by losing grip, is by having a jumping transition like this. So if you kind of land in an angle, do air brake as well, you can see that my car kind of landed in an angle, so we started sliding. And from that slide you can start speed drifting and gaining more speed. And another common way of starting speed slides is from other features. But remember, in a lot of features you lose your grip, so you can use that at the end to start a speed slide. Like right here, you lose a bit of grip, you say sliding, we can immediately start speed sliding from that. So then often what you can have is like a Wallride, then from that Wallride you start a speed slide into a looping, and from that looping you start another one, and in that way you can create a whole full speed map. Okay, so right here we do not have anything. We do not have a jump, we don't have dirt, we're not fast enough. So how do we start a speed slide in this part? What you can do is something called an S4D. So what that basically does is very simple. Is you do it like you start a drift. Remember? Just if you press the brake key, you start sliding. If you tap the brake key, you still start sliding. So really quickly, very quick tap to make sure that we're not drifting and actually losing speed. Just very quickly tap the brake to lose the grip, and then keep that slide going. And usually this is used as a last resort. Because of that brake tap, it can be a bit slower or gives less speed than if you would start a speed slide normally. But especially if the SD that you get from the S4D is very long, it can be very worth it to do. So let's take everything that we learned, so gaining speed in the form of speed slides and not sliding, and not losing speed in all the features, and see how we can apply that to a real full speed map. Alright, so here we are on Purple by Entry Lag. This is one of the most known full speed maps in TM 2020, and it has basically everything. So let's do a run of it. I'll be talking through it, and I hope I won't crash, but we'll see about that. So let's start here. Start our alternate position, so very close. Now for general lines in full speed, it's mostly about just being as close as possible, so taking the shortest line, and still not losing any speed in the process. So you don't have to worry too much about entries and exits in the turns itself. Just make sure you're not losing any speed and taking a short line. So let's start again. Again, short line. Turn on right here so we can keep grip. Now this first transition here, we have this this kind of slanted road. I believe people call it the Jeffrey. So you can use this tiny kind of bump here to start a speed slide. So a transition like that. Then here, I don't know if you saw it, but we have this tiny patch of purple grass. So this is the SD helper I was talking about, just a small piece of grass or dirt to help you start your speed slide. So here, we start the speed slide, we keep it, we keep it, we keep it. Then a jump. Too bad my not crushing strategy didn't work. Or work. We try it again. Use the bump, use the SD helper. Maybe a bit of oversliding just so we can make this turn. Again, we can, if I get rid of my Cam 3 here, you can see that we had this small jump here. Then we can use that to also start a speed slide here. Then we have our first feature, the cake. Remember, go a bit high. Speed slide helper to start the speed slide. A tube into a Wallride into another tube. Now the principles still stay the same. Don't slide. Make sure you kind of hit the apex. I did not hit it there. Small bit of airtime. Didn't have any airtime at the exit. Use the bump to start speed sliding. And what you can notice there is we're above 800. So if we're above 800, it's very important to start speed sliding, because as you saw earlier, our acceleration of the engine basically goes to 0 if we hit 800 speed. So even just quickly speed sliding will make you a lot faster. Let's continue where we left off. So the tube into a Wallride, just going down. And then now we're fast enough to just start speed slide by just by turning. So that way was just quickly going through a full speed map and kind of seeing what you can do. Now let's take a look at my PB and the world record and see what could be done better. So let's start with my PB. Take it close. Maybe a bit more to the right, that's okay. Speed I was a bit short, but it's okay. There was an underslide. We couldn't fully keep the speed slide going here. And here. You're gonna have to stop and re-drift. It seems I was also sliding a bit in this tube. Lost me a bit of speed. Small bit of airtime there. At the entry, let's take a look. Right there, very small bit of airtime. Okay. One very long speed slide here. Oh, I'm oversliding quite a bit, so you can see that I'm not. I am accelerating faster than I would normally, but if I had, especially here, you can see I'm. Oh, can't really see. You could see that my skip marks are a bit too wide, so I'm actually not gaining that much speed. Only once my skip marks are closer, I'm gaining more speed. Go back. Small bit of sliding, and then to the end. Even end with 999 speed, the maximum amount of speed. Now just let's see what happens if you compare my PB to the world record. So we compare my PB to max. Out my ghost, we don't have double ghosts. He already does some trickery to gain to have less airtime. Speed sliding just a bit longer. Now let's see how much he has, how much speed he has in the next checkpoint. I have, let's say, 740-ish. Let's look at the same checkpoint from Max's perspective. Let's go here. Again, goes high. 770. Just in that small amount of time, he's already 30 speed faster, and this will, of course, then snowball throughout the map. So let's take a look at this full run and see what he does. Go here. Small flow trick in order to get that transition earlier. Very close. Did you see that? Just barely touches here. Very close. Uses this jump there to start the speed drift. He actually goes a bit to the right here. You get a better angle. No airtime. No airtime. No sliding, of course. And this part is very important to keep your speed, to generate a lot of speed. 980. And then right here you can see he's actually not speed sliding at the very end there, because the maximum amount of speed you can get on road is on 999. So there's no use to speed slide here because you're not gaining any speed anyway. So yeah, just have good speed slides, get tight lines if you're not through the features. If you are in the features, make sure that you're not losing speed by, for example here in the cake, abusing the height there, and not sliding in the features. Just one last thing I want to mention about speed slide specifically is, for example, here I have this reactor boost down, which gives me extra grip. And in these cases, also when you have, for example, magnet, the speed slides become more important as you will gain even more speed from them. Like this. Of course, I'm kind of unsliding a bit, but yeah. So when you have a magnet or a reactor boost down, pay some extra attention to your speed slides, as they'll give you even more speed than normal. This even works when you're upside down. So if you see some magnet upside down parts, you can even speed slide there. So that's everything I want to mention about full speed. I hope you can use this to optimize your speed and lines in your full speed maps. Next time we'll be talking about the slidey surfaces. So this will be dirt, grass and plastic. So hopefully see you next time.